Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Dean, and with me, my very good friend. And when I say with me, I mean he's with me.
I am.
Literally with me. He's upstairs. That is my office. That is my Canadian flag. And does it feel weird, Denver Riggleman, Congressman, Denver Riggleman, AI expert, Denver Riggleman, drone expert, Denver Riggleman, data sciences expert, Denver Riggleman? Does it feel weird sitting with a Canadian flag at your back? Should it be in
No,
front?
it doesn't feel weird at all since Canada has been one of our dearest friends forever,
Oh,
right? The Northern democracy, a brother to us who believe in democratic institutions. It doesn't feel weird at all.
you've been here, what, 3 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And folks, we're going to talk a lot about a couple of different things today. Technology. We're also going to talk about religion. Seems to be playing a major role in this war in Iran. And the reason why we're going to talk about drone technology and AI is because that's also playing a major role in Iran to United States detriment. You being a targeting expert, a former United States Air Force decorated veteran, someone who deeply understands the space. Is incredible. You also deeply understand the other aspect of this war, which reared its fucking weird head. And that's where I want to start. Is the addition of, hey guys, U.S. Army guys, you're fighting a holy war. We're going to start Armageddon, and Jesus is going to come out of the sky. Sorry. And horns and trumpets are going to blow, and the archangels and horses with wings, and there's going to be 1,000-year fight. It's called the end times, and I'm glossing over some things. We're going to get into it, but it's the idea and the addition to the United States military's purpose for what's going on in Iran, as they were told the other day. And I'm talking about 40 commanders, some NCOs saying, this is a war for Jesus Christ, you guys. Don't worry about dying. You're going to be martyrs. I mean, you're a fucking military veteran, a decorated dude who understood what was at stake when you went to war with and for your country for reasons that truly did fucking matter and still do. How are you feeling about all this shit? Being a former Mormon, me being a former evangelical Christian, you and I both have a very deep understanding what the end times and trying to, wrap up this war with some kind of holy garb. But talk to me about that part of this first before we get into it.
It's me and you laugh a lot. We have great jokes. We have a great time. But I can't imagine what would happen if I was there during a mission brief or command brief, and my commander, whether it's a squadron commander or maybe a base commander or it's a wing commander, I was Air Force, or you're talking about somebody in the Army, in the Marine Corps, Navy, and your commander's up there saying that this is really preparatory for the end times of God, right? That this is a rapture forward war, right? So that it's very possible that based on our great and amazing victories and sacrifice, that the end times could start now with the 1,000 years where Jesus rules the earth and the good are taken up and the evil are here, right, to stay. That's an interesting way to put things. And I would say, though, that not one military member, except for an anonymous or going to, was it Mikey Weinstein? I'm trying to remember.
Mikey Weinstein, yeah.
Right.
From, I believe it's the religious freedoms thing for veterans, right? People who are in the Army that don't want to, have people to shit on their religion, their belief system, and be allowed to believe whatever they want while serving their country. Correct. Yes.
Right. Not one of them is going to say a thing because they're worried about their evaluations. They're worried about some downstream effect that's going to affect their career. So now you have them sort of tacitly accepting that, right, that they have a commander who's saying that the United States of America is going to war based on the fact that Jesus tells them to. And I tell you, I don't know if sky fairy diplomacy is where I want to go, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And, and plus you saw the group prayer in the Oval Office today.
Yeah.
You also saw Mike Huckabee and others saying that this was a holy war that's been prophesied in Revelations, which is just a sort of a book that was, I think, made up on somebody, on a ayahuasca trip. But I think that's the kind of things that we have right now, and I think it's absolutely terrifying. But again, I mean, the thing is, I'm a freedom of religious guy, Dean, and that's what I want to talk about. But I also know where the spiritual warfare mantle of God stuff comes from.
Where does it come from? Because you and I are both very much apostate from the faith that we used to count as true, and you and I have had some deep conversations about this, and it's difficult for a lot of people to understand what an apostate is, and I'll really explain it. It's someone that has lived in a certain faith slash religion slash ideology slash cult, and has had the good sense, in whatever case, in our case, good sense to go, hang on. None of this really makes a lot of sense to me. It seems pretty violent and shitty, and there's this exclusive club that gets to go to heaven and fuck all y'all. Like that was the thing that I never understood about evangelical Christianity. So I get to university and I'm out. However, the dog whistles of the apologetics and the policies that they're able to turn, these groups of people in the United States into fearsome warriors based on limited information, but it's really based on the afterlife. And in your case as a Mormon, walk me through former Mormon, sorry, walk me through that sort of apostate moment you've had and how you understand what they're doing when CENTCOM sends a guy in to go, hey guys, we're fighting for Jesus and we're bringing the end times. And we'll get into what this means in terms of the book of Revelation and all that other shit. And I know there's going to be a lot of people whose minds are going to be blown today going, Dean, I had no idea. No, you didn't know any of this stuff because we don't talk about this stuff. It's either embarrassing or very difficult because it comes with familial relationships, right? So walk me through, in your case, specifically in the Mormon faith and the apologetics and the policies of the Mormon faith, what you see and hear going back to the propagandized young, future Mormon missionary, or in my case, future evangelical missionary, where we're like, holy shit, they're actually dragging this stuff out. Like they think it's really going to happen.
I don't think what people know. I want to tell everybody first of all, bottom line up front. I sound like a military briefer. I apologize. Bottom line up front. If January 6th happened when I was 18 or 19 years old, I would have been part of that crowd.
Mm. Mm.
Because just like with the military, what I'm saying, it's both about spiritual warfare and the armor of God.
Mm.
And if you're protecting somebody who is ordained by God like Jesus Christ, and I have, family members who believe that Donald Trump was put here and is actually a vessel by which the Lord Jesus Christ actually works through him, an imperfect vessel to actually execute a perfect mission.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised saying that spiritual warfare and the armor of God is the number one thing that we're here for, the front lines of Jesus. I was also raised that the Mormon religion was the one and only true religion. And one of the things, I don't know, I want to go pretty deep here, and I don't even know if after I'm done with you, Dean, tonight, if I should ever run for office again or how this is going to happen. But how about we be honest?
If you're honest, I think you should run for office, but please go ahead. Yes.
Well, there's a lot of things you keep from people in your life because you're worried about where you came from.
Mm.
And you're worried about how they will see initial and extended family members as you go forward. At 6 weeks in the missionary training center, I went to my bishop. I had lied to go on my mission because there was no way on earth as a 19-year-old I had been a complete virgin my whole teenage years.
Are you pure, Mr. Riggleman? Yes, sir.
No, absolutely. Not only am I pure, I don't even look at Sears catalogs in an outhouse in West Virginia, right? That ain't happening.
We come from the
Right.
lack of internet era, so Good Housekeeping, Sears catalog, it was a big deal to us as a kid.
Dude, I remember 11, 12 years old, the brawl section of the Sears catalog was a go-to, for so many people.
Incredible, yeah.
So,
like, wow, those are wow. And then you get them Sharpie out, and you're like, okay, this is what it would look like if yeah, I get it. This is a guy.
We couldn't afford Sharpies. I would just pick my blood,
You're from Appalachia. Sorry,
Appalachia,
continue.
right? I had to be tough, right?
Yeah.
Blood atonement. Anyway, so I think when I was there, I finally thought when everybody was there talking about the testimony of Jesus Christ, I never felt anything. I thought it was because I was such a dire sinner.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and actually I confessed that as a teenager. I don't know if this is the right and correct terminology, that I might have been a serial fornicator, right? So so I had this this sort of, and probably not as bad as others. Okay, Dean. But
yeah, not as bad as me.
No, probably not after what I've. Not that I'm projecting onto Dean, everybody.
No, I've told you otherwise. So you're right in the money. Yeah, I don't care that you air my laundry here, dude. I live it out loud.
No. Yeah. Well, the thing about me though is that I think people are afraid to say that we're basically human beings, right? We're just right. We're just corporeal matter, right? We're just we're skeletons bathed in flesh. I don't know where I'm going with this, but What I'm telling people, though, is that when I went to the bishop or I went to the stake president there at the MTC in Provo, Utah, the Missionary Training Center, and I confessed to what I had done, I was forgiven. I had just baptized my wife, who was actually raised Church of the Brethren, and they immediately disfellowshipped her but forgave me. And I already had thought that I was somehow flawed, seriously flawed, because I felt like I was never a vessel of this spiritual capture that everybody else seemed to have, and I never had. I was always questioning, why our prophet had multiple wives, or why some of them might be 14 or 13 years old, and I had these, and I had these questions, right? What do we really? Are we really going to the planet Kolob? Like, is our religion based on aliens, right? And people are like, you need to shut up, right? Don't go look at apostate books. Don't go look at literature, right? Faith is the number one thing you rely on, and everything else you're reading is from the devil, right?
Mhm.
Apostates, bad people are writing this to take you away from the one true religion, and you believe that, right? And you're also taught that this is spiritual warfare. You are wearing the armor of God. You're on the front line for Jesus. I would actually have dreams when I was a kid, 12 to 15, where I thought I was fighting in these holy wars, right? The armor of God.
Mm.
I think when that happened to my wife at the age of 19, I was already down the path of everything I did, I felt guilty about. I felt like I was going to hell on everything that I had ever done. So, but when I saw that sort of this unequal application of heavenly justice,
Mm.
it was then that I started to actually. It was almost like the thing that was starting to breed in me, Dane, was starting to rip away. Like it was almost like Velcro was like slowly ripping off my bare skin, leaving because I was above moron. There was no way that I was going to let that type of unequal treatment happen to somebody I loved, and I ended up marrying her because, well, I needed a place to live. But anyway, so, so yeah, yeah.
It's
When you
funny
get
because it's probably true.
oh, it's
Anyway,
completely
continue.
true, right? It's completely true. You haven't lived until you slept in an '84 Chevette, right? Just want to tell people that it sucks to be homeless, man. It sucks.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I think that's the thing too, Dean, and I know you have some of those experiences, and I know
Mm.
this is about both of us, and why we have bonded is because the thing is I'm probably the biggest advocate for freedom of religion,
Mhm.
but I'm also a bigger advocate for freedom from religion or freedom of thought.
Mhm.
So there, both of those can actually
Mm.
hold the same place. If you want to believe in Jesus Christ, I think that's great. If that is your moral center and you're able to do good with that, I think that's a beautiful thing. If you believe in Allah and you're Islam, that's beautiful. If you're of the Jewish faith, oh, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. If you're Shinto or Buddhist or Hindu, one of the multiple sects of religious, you're on the Protestant side or the Catholic side. If you're one of the 73 major Islam sects, if you're Shia or Sunni, right? I don't care, right? But if that actually intrudes and that's part of a policy making thing, like you see in the White House or you see a military commander, look at this full circle moment.
Mm.
Once that happens and you're utilizing a spiritual faith-based way of enacting policy that's completely away from what's actually happening in the real world, unless you're trying to mold the world into that specific vision of what you
Mm.
think based on a belief system. So
Well said. Yeah.
so that's the thing that I worry about. And then I'm like, okay, I want to run for office again. How do I appeal to those who are lovely Christians or the lovely Jewish people or the lovely believers in
Muslims?
Islam,
Yeah.
right? The lovely people that are of an other religious faith or different in the way that they believe, whether it's again on the Protestant, Catholic, Mormon, new religion, right? That kind of stuff. And then how do I separate the cult activity when I see Scientology or Mormonism or other religious faiths or the cult of Trump or Paula White speaking in tongues or a prayer, where there's a laying on the hands of a person who's been adjudicated for sexual abuse. Those are the things that I have to try to rationalize in my mind, sir.
That's not possible. Not with someone who thinks critically like you, right? Like, and I, it's funny. I'm gonna have a different tact, and I know you're like, hey, you can believe whatever you want. You know, there is a reason. I'm gonna get to this email in just a second. There is a reason that Brigham Young University, Liberty University, are hotbeds to go and recruit people in the CIA, people in the FBI. There is a reason that military recruitment around those specific religious universities is so important to the United States of America. An inordinate amount of Brigham Young University students are targeted by the United States government, as well as Liberty University, other Christian universities, evangelical, Muslim, Christian. There is a reason. And I think it's really important to say, because we're sitting here talking about our experience. I'll get to mine in just a second, in the evangelical church, but it's the same fearful propaganda. It is the same tying into your acts on earth to a heavenly reward, which is the afterlife. Right? It is the same in each one of those religions. And each one of those religions is like, hey, listen, we're the one true religion. Everybody else is fucked. Like, but somehow they have this incredible and innate ability, the United States military, and more importantly, and it wasn't just the United States military, to marry God to service, God to policy, and it could be any God, and they're not real specific about which God they're talking about. And this is, a real quick kind of, lesson on how many gods we currently worship in North America. This is just North America. 4,000 of them. 4,000 different gods. Those are how many gods we worship here in Canada and the United States. And when I hear people, using that rhetoric, and then I see that rhetoric married to recruitment for the FBI, recruitment for the CIA, recruitment for the military, and then I read this email, I'm going to read it to you. I'm like, there it is. That's the reason. They need people to do this. They need people to be mission ready to die on behalf of elected officials. So let me read this to you. This is from Mikey at Military Religious Freedom. This is an email that he got from an active duty officer, active duty military NCO, MRFF. Not sure what MRFF is. Do you know what that is?
So is it the Marine? They said the CEO of MRFF.
NSO, NCO, and MRFF client. Yeah.
MRFF is the Military Religious Freedom Foundation.
Okay, yeah, there you go. It's this is a client. And this is a religious military freedom foundation email that Mikey Weinstein, I believe his name, put out. I'm an NCO rank, withheld the information. This morning, our commander opened up the combat readiness status briefing. You've been in some of those. You've run a bunch of those, right? So let me tell you.
I'm. Yeah.
Deeply and dearly.
Deeply and dearly.
So he says, I was this morning, our commander opened up the combat readiness status briefing by urging us not to be afraid. This is important, and we'll get to why. As to what is happening on our combat operations in Iran right now, he urged us to, quote, tell our troops this was all part of God's divine plan. And he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelations referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He said that President Trump, this is where it gets fucking gnarly, dude. And this is all the work that we've seen going into ginning up these specific groups of people. And I'll get to why in just a second. President Trump has been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran, causing Armageddon to mark Jesus Christ's return on earth. He then goes on to say he had a big grin on his face when he said all of this, which made the message seem even more crazy. Our commander would probably be described as Christian first. He has been this way for a very long time, makes it very clear he desires all of us under him to become just like him as a Christian. But what he did this morning was so toxic and over the line. It shocked many of us in attendance, the ops readiness briefing. Besides myself, I'm reaching out to MRFF on behalf of 15 fellow troops. I know you asked me about the religious views of the group. Here it is. I can only tell you that I am a Christian. At least 10 others are also Christians. One is Jewish and one is Muslim. I don't know the other religions and the non-religious status for the other. We are now up to 400 complaints to the MRFF, whistleblowers that are like, this is fucking crazy because this is now systemic. So walk me through, your experience in these mission readiness briefings. If that had happened to you, and like literally walk me through why they're doing this. I know the answer, but maybe you can share it from your perspective as an apostate Mormon.
There was never a time where I wasn't part of the prayer before a mission. There was never a time where I was going to push back. Even at the age of 29 and on the Romanian-Serbian border, 2000 in Oman, 9/11, 2001 in Diego and Oman, there's no way I was going to push back. I'm not going to push back. Right, if I'm in Israel in 1996, during the bus bombings, when I'm not going to push back, because at that point, even with me knowing that I was pulling away, there is still a comfort in the fact that if you die, you're a martyr for Jesus in the true American way, right? Which is the Constitution, which was actually a God ordained document, right? Which we were taught in the LDS Church. My guess is in other religions, you were also taught that the Constitution, right, was part of God's plan to build His kingdom on earth through the United States. If
Mm.
you look at the Mormon religion, the downflow is at the 3 days when Jesus Christ was actually behind the boulder, when he was killed after his crucifixion. Those 3 days, the manifestation of Jesus Christ actually showed himself and preached in the New World, which was the United States of America, saying that the United States of America is the promised land besides Israel. There is no way on earth that I wasn't going to bow my head and pray to look over those specific mission members that were going into harm's way, whether I believed it or not. And
Mm.
there was no way that I was going to ever make a complaint because my commander had a Bible on his desk, and I don't think people know that. And now again, I got out in 2003, right, as a prior enlisted captain. There was no way anybody would ever say, you know what, I'm good. I might be Jewish, I might be Islam, I might be non-denominational, or I might not be a practicing in faith at all. I might be agnostic. I might be an atheist. That they're going to stand up and say, I'm not going to bow my head because we're a brotherhood and sisterhood that's going into war. And there still is this basic tenet, this overreaching thing that somehow, what if we are the good country right now? What if, you know what I mean, buddy?
Mm.
And for me to say that I was the guy that just stared straight ahead, like, now, it's ridiculous, right? I bow my head. Good job. God bless you, brother. Come back from your mission, man. I got your six. We made sure that we had this happen. Or if I'm going, I'm walking in the city of Craiova with four of my other people looking for a lost person. I got a gun stuck in my freaking chest, which has happened. And I'm like, God, help me here in my head, right? By God, I hope if he pulls the trigger, it's a dry fire, which it was. So there's the type of things that that you go through.
Mm.
And for me to sit here and tell people that I don't still value those people that stood on my left and my right that were intentionally religious, I would be
Mhm.
lying to you, Dean. It would be
Mhm.
unfair of me to lie about that. But on the other side, the fact that as I get older and I see that policy is actually being underwritten by a book that cannot be proven, validated, or anything of that nature, and there's multiple books from multiple prophets and multiple specific laser beams of spiritual love going straight into their frontal lobe that's giving them some kind of answer that I can't validate or trust, and that's being used as policy to put people in harm's way, scares the hell out of me. It's something I can't square anymore.
Mm. 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 Man, oh man! I mean, I did. This is the conversation I wanted to have, and specifically with you. Obviously, growing up, in the church, growing up in the evangelical church, and I'll explain a couple of things. I was shipped off to a private Christian high school. We always had recruiters there for the Canadian Air Force, Canadian Army, CAF, right? Canadian Air Force, or sorry, the Canadian, yeah, Canadian Air Force, and you had so many people that would talk about their duty to protect one nation under God, right? Like it's literally woven into the fabric of anthems, not just in Canada but in the United States. And over the past, I would say 10 years, and it's funny because we get these. You get it in a nuclear way, obviously, because of where you're from and what you do and what you've done, and your ability to understand the apologetics of the Mormon faith. And now you're apostate. You have the ability to kind of look and listen to these dog whistles and go, "What the fuck?" I mean, they're really doing this. Like they're really doing this, but the sheen of separation of church and state stops with the military in both of our countries, right? Like it really does. This is your earthly duty. You need to go and do this, and we need you to go and sacrifice your life. And in this case, this email, you need to be a martyr for us. Because what it's going to do is it's going to help Israel. Again, you want to talk about foreign policy. None of this is America first, right? Unless you consider the apologetics in that speech that you just gave, or the rant of America also being a land of chosen opportunity. And there's now this narrative that is being delivered to the troops that not only are you fighting for Jesus, you're fighting for the guy that Jesus chose to usher in the end times. Well, if anybody is familiar with the end times, it's not a fucking fun story. It's not bedtime reading. So, like, they're selling this as a holy duty to military men and women to bring about the end times. Let me read you what the end times are. And this is the end times, okay? There's several steps. Number one, Israel must exit and control its biblical territory. Non-negotiable. Without Israel, the prophecy can't be triggered, which is why evangelical Christians are often more aggressively pro-Israel than many Jewish people. They don't love Israel for Israelis. They need Israel as a detonator to bring on the end times. And they believe that shit. They believe it. Number two, great conflict engulfs the Middle East, Gog and Magog, two great powers, great war, World War III happens in Israel. That's important. Gog and Magog, you'll hear that a lot as part of their rhetoric. Great conflict involves the Middle East. Ezekiel 38:39. It's a funny story. Describes Gog and Magog forces from the north that attack Israel. Evangelicals have spent decades mapping this into modern geopolitics. And literally now they're incorporating that mapping into legitimately mission readiness combat. A prophecy.
Yes.
In a book that's been bastardized hundreds of times over 2,000 years. So, and I'm not done. Evangelicals spent that much time, and it's supposed to happen in Iran, specifically. Ancient Persia is where they talk about it. I mean, like, you can say the prophecies are coming true, or you could say they're cherry picking, but it's supposed to happen in Iran. Russia is often talked about as Gog. Magog is the West, which is us, Donald Trump. The war has to be massive, has to be bloody. The bloodier and better, because, and this is the this is the point. Blood is the point. Death is the point. The end of the world as we know it is the fucking point. Revelations 14:20 describes blood flowing as high as the horse's bridle across a distance of about 300 kilometers, with the four horsemen of the apocalypse coming down and just cutting people's heads off, by the way. And it's not a metaphor. This is fucking real. People truly do fucking believe this. And this is now being mainlined into the brains of people with AK-47s that have the ability to blow shit up at a level that nobody has ever seen before, not to steal a line from Donald Trump. They need an unimaginable slaughter in the Middle East to validate their theology. And with these commanders that are especially delighted with how this graphic is going, they're zeroing in on that brutality for Jesus. They're literally telling you, we need you to wipe people out. We don't care what you do to them. This is the fucking prophecy. It is in a book. And this book is what governs the United States of America. This book is why we're here. This Bible that predicts that we have to fucking make blood flow as high as a horse's bridle through the streets of Tehran and all over fucking Iran. This is our duty. This is our divine duty. That is being delivered in mission readiness briefings to people that are currently bombing Iran.
Sounds eerily similar to Islamic radical
It is
believers, doesn't it?
It's exactly the same.
You know the most, the prophecy most likely to come true, Dean? A self-fulfilling prophecy. And people can say, look, this prophecy was fulfilled because look what happened, but we're actually forward thinking that prophecy or manifesting that prophecy based on policy built from prophecy and fantasy. Wow. It's pretty crazy, huh? The circular reasoning of self-fulfilling prophecy. So we have commanders out there saying this. And again, as we go back to how we were raised, not a big deal to believe that from where we came from.
No.
Not a big deal. And I don't know what people like. I see massive comments popping right in the bottom, right? And I'm trying not to read them. But you know what's interesting? I have people like, well, it's always been like that. Or, of course, I mean, how could you believe this when you were younger and things of that nature? The power of religion in this country, if you look at the percentage of those who believe in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, right? And whatever that is, right? From Southern Baptist to Catholic to Church of Scientology, right? To the Mormon faith, right? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the different belief systems that surround it. Is the Trinity three separate Godheads or is it one Godhead? What is it, Dean? Right? And we get me and you. And by the way, my first
God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit's the Trinity. Everybody, just so everybody understands what the
yeah,
Trinity
absolutely,
is.
absolutely. But my first degree option was theology because I had read Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much similarities in all the religions and the baselines, which I look at as how human beings actually create fantasy. But a lot of people say, well, there must be something to it because they're all so similar. And I'm like, dear Lord in heaven, help me. Think about what I just said.
Dear Lord in heaven, help me. Wait, I don't believe in that guy. Oh my God, what am I going to do? There's no one there to help me.
So my thing is we have so many people on here right now, and I'm just a bit surprised. When you go this personal, Dana, I was a little worried about it.
I know you are, but listen, there are a lot of people out there that are questioning their belief systems for the first time ever for very good reasons because it doesn't match up with the humanity of the moment. The inhumanity of what is being told to these individuals, men and women in uniform, the inhumanity that we see on the streets of the United States of America, where he's executing, your president is executing people in the name of Jesus. He's protecting pedophiles in the name of Jesus. He's the chosen one. He's a chosen one. And so I think it's incumbent upon people like us to sort of drag these scars out and show them to people and explain why, because we're uniquely qualified, and I'm not uniquely qualified to do anything. Hey guys, I'm fucking me. I live my life. I have struggled with the and if anybody has walked away from their faith and walked away from their family in that faith, I'm fortunate because my family still embraces me. My family isn't that kind of evangelical Christian. They're Christians. None of them identify as evangelical anymore because of Donald Trump, because of the bastardization of their belief system, because Donald Trump has destroyed what they thought Jesus stood for, the teachings of the philosopher Christ. And a lot of people that believe in God, listen, good for you. I happen to believe Jesus was a philosopher. I happen to believe he had some really great nuggets like Marcus Aurelius, like Epictetus, like Seneca, like Aristotle, like Plato, like fucking Viktor Frankl, like Buddha, like Gandhi. Like I believe there have been really bright people in bright moments, and their works are generally co-opted. And so to understand how you've co-opted Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, everybody's Lord and Savior, to do unspeakable things to individuals. The Nazis were Christian Catholics. Do you understand that, everybody? Do you understand that they thought that they had a mission? And that mission meant that they had to kill as many Jews as humanly possible in the most inhumane way possible. And there's a story that goes around about the starting of this little town called, I think it was called Germantown. After the war was done, the United States lifted all the really fucking smart V2 rocket guys like Oppenheimer, everybody. They brought them to this small town. They built this little Germantown in the middle of nowhere so they could pump them for information. Da, 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 da. You know what was really important to those Nazis that killed millions of people in the most inhumane way possible? In a historical way that we look at now and we think this is a blight on humanity, that moment, and we're watching it happen now. You know what was the most important thing for those Germans to have in that fake Nazi town where they were working with Americans to deliver technology? A fucking church.
No. Mm-hmm.
Church.
Church.
That was the most important thing to him. So when we have this conversation, it's really important to understand, not only is that the impetus for what Donald Trump wants to do, that's the impetus for what Vladimir Putin is doing in Ukraine. And that is the connection between, how you see Christian people that you're like, my God, I thought we're watching genocide in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is literally murdering children and women, and he's fucking blowing up fucking hospitals. And he's doing it in the name of Christ. He's doing it in the name of Christians around the world. He's doing it to denazify this place. Well, Nazis were fucking Christians. And he hides underneath that. And Donald Trump has that through pipe, through religion. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand. When you look at your neighbor and you're like, wait a second, I thought you were a Christian and you're supporting genocide in Ukraine and you love Donald Trump? Yes, because he has married it, as Putin has, to their belief system. And that belief system is literally tied to something called the afterlife, where you live forever. And that afterlife, if you're a Christian, comes from something called the sinner's prayer in the evangelical church. That's a full conversion experience. And the United States has tens, maybe hundreds of millions of these people who truly do believe that, who it's the afterlife, or like I can give up the afterlife, living forever. Eternal salvation is what they call it in my faith or my old faith. Or I could go and fight for Donald Trump and fucking watch blood flow down fucking the main street here in Tehran because it's what is prophesied, and that is now literally being put into mission planning. And again, going back to the Ukraine issue, we're watching Ukraine right now, right? And this is a highly religious Christian area of the world, Orthodox Christian. Yeah, you understand it. And Ukraine, right? Specifically the Ukrainian people, and I hope I'm not shaking too many people's faiths, but all of the things that we're saying here are 100% true, is now truly in the driver's seat. Truly in the driver's seat. They have not embraced a religious narrative. They're not doing this for God. They have never talked about it once. And 2 days ago, Donald Trump went and started begging not Vladimir Putin, started begging Vladimir Zelensky for help, trying to protect U.S. assets in the area because they can't stop 6 drones. Ukraine stopped 700 drones. You're a drone expert on top of being apostate. And I got to get your thoughts on this. I need to get your thoughts not only on, and we talked about it earlier with Zev, but I wanted to drag this out a little more, get more detail from you. Now the United States of America, who has absolutely abandoned these people, is begging these people for their help, begging them for their technology, begging them to stop all the catastrophic damage Iran is doing with several drones a day to infrastructure, installations around not just that belong to the United States military, Kuwait, Oman, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. They are picking things off at fucking will. And I want to talk to you about how it is humanly possible, for a guy like Vladimir Zelensky to go, okay, we'll help you guys.
Could be a couple things, but first I want to say this. Jesus doesn't stop drones. Ukrainian expertise does. So
Are you saying he's not a cure for COVID too? Is that
probably not.
okay?
The other thing too, right? You know what's interesting about that is a lot of people would say, well, Denver, I know that God takes care of my body. I don't need to take a COVID vaccine. I'm like, well, if God is all powerful, wouldn't he have made the COVID vaccine? And that really screws people up.
What?
So,
What?
right? Wouldn't God create doctors? Right? Wouldn't God create this class of doctors just like he creates a class of preachers? And I hate to use my common sense million-pound shit hammer, but I just want to do that very quickly. So when you're
Shit. Hey, everybody, you know why Denver and I are friends now, right?
yeah, so
Yeah.
but when you're talking about like shaheads and you're talking about drone and asymmetric warfare, I think what's happened is when you have sort of the weakness and sort of the fecklessness of the Biden administration when they should have gone all in with Ukraine, and then you have this almost the continued and the absolutely 100% withdrawal of most of our support from Ukraine during the Trump administration. What's happened to the United States military? We have failed to take advantage of the Ukrainians' advances in asymmetric defense for drones, but also asymmetric drone offense. And I think that's really what we're seeing right now. Is the reason that Trump had to go to Zelensky is that Shaheeds are low and slow compared to the type of missiles and systems we have built to actually guard against advanced threat systems, right? We're into fourth and fifth generation fighters. We're talking about Shaheeds, right? That really are a drone carrying explosives. And even Shaheeds at the beginning even started with wooden propellers. Very difficult, right, to stop and things of that nature. So I think what we're seeing right now is that the United States was not prepared based on incompetence and who are actually in positions of power for the downstream effects of asymmetric warfare for drones coming out of Iran. It's that simple. It had, if we're fighting a holy war, maybe we should do the planning necessary before we do it, right? And maybe we should have competent leaders, right, that aren't relying on the Bible, but maybe relying on doctrine or asymmetric doctrine or the history of what's going on in the Ukrainian battle space with the Russians. Also, the Russians have gotten so much better using fiber optic drones and other drones back and forth. The Ukrainians and Russians, right now, I would say the Ukrainians are number one and the Russians are number two in drone warfare worldwide. The real country that's actually has the biggest advantage is China because of how many drones they make and the specifications of those drones as they're building this massive drone ability. But what it comes down to is this, my brother. Well, I feel like I'm preaching all of a sudden. What just happened there? But here's what we really have is we have a lack of expertise at the highest levels of the United States government to even try to predict what might happen militarily in an asymmetric environment involving drones. That's why we had to go to Zelensky, and that's why we can't be relying on gospel. We have to rely on data, facts, and doctrine, and the people who actually do it in order to have an effective defense and offense using this new generation of drone warfare.
So, do you think that Pete Hegseth just looks at mission planning and at the end of it truly doesn't understand it, is asked to do, and it's, we talk about the unspeakable nature of what's going on in Iran, and it is truly unspeakable. It doesn't matter how you feel about the regime. I'm talking about the people that are getting wiped out. I'm talking about 160 elementary school girls who got murdered by U.S. ordnance. That was found to be U.S. ordnance today.
Of course.
Is that a guy like Pete Hegseth probably looks at mission planning, tries to understand it, probably can't because he doesn't have the gears, right? He just doesn't have the gears. And at the end of it, because you and I come from this background, you and I come from this space where you can't do something and it seems implausible or impossible, and you'll lean on God, you'll lean on Jesus, you'll go, yeah, you know what? The rest we're just going to put at the feet of Jesus Christ. The rest we're just going to pray. Do you think that is part, as crazy as it sounds, part of the strategy of the Department of Defense, the Department of War, whatever the fuck he wants to call it today?
It is. And I think if somebody were to come to me like a pig headset and say, God will provide the plan, I would say, well, here's the issue. If you think God's going to provide the plan, wouldn't have God provided the knowledge to actually have a plan? Again, it goes back to, right? If you're looking at biblical writings and things like that, we are here to help ourselves. We can't automatically rely on God unless we've done the proper work. We plowed the proper ground in order to get there to receive those blessings, to plant the seeds, right? So I would humbly submit to somebody. There's a reason that this general was made for what he does, is because God foresee what was going to happen. Now, I guess what I'm saying, Dean, and you know what I'm doing here, right? Is that you can use that for anything. It's completely malleable. How you want to utilize God as somebody who's all knowledgeable. So if God was all knowledgeable, we're automatically saying that God pretty much knew we couldn't stop Shahed Jones drones, right? And this is what this was going to happen.
And
So
when you pray to him for help, he's not helping you. And here's the great part, and this is the part I love about the Christian faith, specifically the evangelical cult, and it's a cult, and I'll explain this in a second, is that when it goes bad, because you didn't mission plan properly, and instead of like figuring out how many smart bombs and proper ordnance you had, and instead of making proper decisions and doing the due diligence with the people that God put in those places, you left it to God. It went bad. You're getting your ass kicked. And it's like every other excuse from this side of the equation, the evangelical side of the equation. They go, it's God's will. You're like, what? What?
I
What?
mean,
It's
the
God's
best
will?
it's the best answer I ever had is Denver. Denny, my young brother,
My Padawan.
my Padawan. Yeah, my little elder. An unanswered prayer is an answer.
I heard it all. I'm like, you're 100%. Well, God didn't answer your prayer. What do you think God's trying to tell you? Nothing, because he didn't answer the fucking prayer, dude.
Yeah, he's telling you nothing because that's what he's telling you. He answered your prayer without the answer. I would now like to go stick a pencil in my eye and run around my yard till I bleed out, you know.
Oh my God. I mean, hey, listen,
Incredible.
folks, it is incredible, but it's incredible because we're applying this logic to something that requires real logic. And there is no logic behind this logic. It is pipe dreams, potions, motions, and lotions. It's just craziness. It's a cult. And the one thing I think a lot of people understand, right? And I hate to shake anybody's faith or reason, but I encourage everybody to read outside of what they believe. Read outside. Go and figure out what it is that doesn't make sense with your religion, with your faith, no matter what it is. Traditionally, the Abrahamic faiths, by the way, the worst, right? Like anything that comes from Abraham, Muslims, Isaac, all that other stuff, Jews, Christians, Muslims, they're the three nuttiest, the three most dangerous religions on the fucking planet. That's a fact. They have the worst religious, radicalized, terrorists. These are terrorists. They're telling people to go and die for real estate, oil, to hide the fucking Epstein files, to keep the Iranian regime in power. And they're like, don't worry. It's God's will. Number one, if you die. Number two, you'd be a martyr. Like, there's no better classification of a dead Christian or Muslim than being a martyr, guys.
Did you say
Martyr.
pipe? Did you say pipe dreams, lotions, motions, and potions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like prom night. But I think
Mine too.
yeah, you know, what can you do? And why I left full circle, why I left the Missionary Training Center in
Me
1981.
too. Why I was kicked out of Youthquake in
That's right.
Carenport in
But buddy,
1991. Listen, the last thing I want to say, let's just insert some real. Let's just insert the real here, okay? And this isn't about religion. This is about doing the work. Is the United States of America did not do the work. They relied on fantasy. They relied on the kakistocracy and people that believed the fantasy. Now we're seeing the results of that. When we talk about what the United States capability is not due to that factor, and the other factor is through two different regimes, two different administrations, Biden or Donald Trump, the United States has completely failed to learn about anything that they said they supported in Ukraine. Completely failed to learn. Is in Ukraine, they stopped 700 drones a day. the United States, Kuwait, every single country that's been attacked by Iran, who's trying to start as many fires in the region, to lean on those partners in that area of the world to tell Donald Trump to cut the fucking shit out. They cannot stop a drone. They cannot stop 6 drones. Ukraine is now stopping 700, and Ukraine, to our earlier point, has been begged by Donald Trump, and there's an agreement now in place that Ukraine is going to help Donald Trump, is going to help the administration protect different aspects of U.S. interests in the area for a cost, for a price. That includes air defense. That includes a few other things. I mean, this is not a Zelensky and the Ukrainian government. They're not thinking in terms of don't worry about it. We'll just pray and God will save us all. It's all in the Bible. It's all good. They're fucking smart, but I want your thoughts on, as a drone expert, as an AI expert. A lot of people don't know this. Denver owns a company called Rig. Rig is a cutting edge verification drone company, AI company, and targeting company. And I don't mean targeting for war. I mean, targeting things in an automated sense. You layer automation. You're a very, very, very bright guy. You did this for the January 6th committee. You believe in data. You believe in facts. You believe in interest. So what are the data and the facts behind the United States failing to learn anything? And what do they have to do to assuage, not just assuage, what do they have to do to get Zelensky's buy-in? And I mean, where do you think this goes? This request for fucking help after what they have done to the people of Ukraine?
I think, first of all, Zelensky's going to ask for additional funding for Ukraine, which he should actually get, which we should have done, well beforehand. But baseline is this: we had deficient foreign policy, with deficient mission planning, and unprepared for cascading effects based on lack of talent in the higher reaches of our government. It's that simple. And I think when we look at asymmetric warfare like drones, I think our failure to learn, right, and the fact that our government is so short-sighted. I think right now we have lacked adults in the room for so long, and we're not seeing that drone warfare is the future. It's absolutely lethal. If you look at what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, you're talking about trench warfare with drones. It's just what it is, buddy. Right? And you're talking about a back and forth incredible. I hope people look up the Baba Yaga drones or the vampire drones from Ukraine, but look up the fiber optic drones from Russia. Look at the footage, right? We're releasing a movie called The Drone Hunters of Kherson, as you know, right? I'm an executive producer. When Ken Harbaugh actually embedded, we're going to try to release that by March 16th. But it actually shows people how effective the Ukrainians are. I actually trained in shooting down drones with automatic weapons when I was in a basement in Ukraine in Kherson. There is a lot that goes on here. And when you see what's happening in the US, we do have smart people. There's actually laser-based drone systems that are being built like Thor, but people don't understand that AI is the new way to actually direct drones when there's humans completely out of the loop. As we're going forward in warfare, what we're seeing is that we're unprepared for single shaheds. Wait until they swarm hundreds at one time with specific targets programmed, with the drones actually being able to deconflict an airspace without humans. That's already there. Swarm. People need to look out swarm technologies and how AI is working for that, graph neural networks, right, and how that is done by those specific operators and by coders. That's where we're at right now, and I would hope that the American government can push forward. But with this current regime, with the people that we have saying group prayers in the White House, that's not going to happen. We need the 2026 midterms to go to Democrats. And listen, I'm not a Democrat. And people are like, oh my God. But it has to be where we have to have some kind of balance in our government where reality and facts are part of what we're doing. And we have people who actually know what they're doing, making decisions in the foreign policy arena before we get more Americans killed.
Well, with that, I don't think I need to add anything else because you crushed it out of the park yet again. Denver Riggleman. Everybody needs to follow Denver. I say this all the time. You need Denver in your life. Not only is he a drone expert, AI expert, he's a good man. One of the privileges that I have in this line of work that I do is I get to surround myself with like-minded people who are good men and women. Ken Harbaugh, who you mentioned, and the drones of Kherson. That's the name of the movie?
Drone Hunters of Kherson.
Drone Hunters of Kherson.
March 16th, yeah.
Another incredibly beautiful person who really means it, lives his values. And he showed me a clip of that, and he's literally embedded himself with these drone hunters in Kherson. They're jumping out of the ditch with Ken, which was ridiculous. You were there. You took part in this. You dodged these drones. You literally you can set your watch to the values of yourself, of Ken Harbaugh, the good people of the Save America movement, which, not only can you believe what these guys are saying, but you can actually kind of set your watch to it. You can project out what happens when bad people do bad things. You can see it. I mean, this is the warning that we've given people for so long. And I still feel it's like our duty to warn, but it's our duty to warn with really good people who know exactly what the fuck they're talking about. Whether it's the incorporation of religion and martyrdom into the U.S. military, whether it's and why, whether it is the inability for the United States to defend in the most simple aspects, assets overseas after they start a war with a group of people who don't give a fuck, watching you lose everything, bases everywhere, watching your ships get fucking sunk, watching you backpedal into the Indian Ocean. I mean, none of this was on anybody's bingo card with the most fearsome military in the United States, the most fearsome military in the world. We've got a lot of learning to do. And that learning starts with understanding the impetus and the context behind how they are getting people to buy in. And they get people to buy in. They get the military to buy in by putting strategically religious people, people that believe in the bullshit, people that believe in the lie, the big lie, people who think they're on a mission from God to do unspeakable things. And there is no difference in my mind between the United States military today, Trump's military, and what he is managing to do through different doors, different side doors, whether it be religion, enrichment, doesn't matter, to people in the Middle East than what ISIS has done to people in the Middle East. I mean, these are people that truly believe that they're martyrs. And to get people to truly understand that, you have to talk to people like you to understand the actual reality on the ground of the work that needs to go into how to truly protect American interests in that space, because that's still an interest. Like watching Trump get fed, watching him beg Zelensky, that's one thing. There's a million Americans that have been stranded in that region of the world by this regime that are currently have zero ability to defend themselves. Zero.
It's well said,
Zero.
Dino. I can't put it. It's just well said, and
Yeah,
I
thanks,
think,
dude.
but it really comes down to, right. I would just rather facts-based policy rather than fantasy-based action.
Another one, I'm going to steal that one. Ladies and gentlemen, Denver Riggleman. He is a congressman, former congressman from the state of Virginia. He is an AI and drone expert, but more importantly, he is someone that has walked on every side of this conversation when it comes to conspiracy, criminal conspiracy, when it comes to facts. And more importantly, this gentleman in front of us doesn't make any decision unless there is data that you can verify. And my God, thanks for doing this, brother. As always, we need to stop this podcast and go for dinner now. You know that.
Well done, Dean. I couldn't say again. Well done on the conclusion. I'm flattered and stunned, and I can't wait to eat.
All right, me too. We'll go get some chicken. I could use some fucking chicken right now. Let's go get some chicken.
Go get some chicken.
All right, let's go get some chicken. Ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe. Hit that Chiron at the top. Follow Denver Riggleman. You need him in your life. And if you got a couple bucks left over, do that too. Blundell. That'd be nice. Listen, I'm a terrible entrepreneur, but give him a follow. Paid subscribers get this content to the front of the algorithm. Paid subscribers get this stuff to the front of everybody's feed. But more importantly, sharing this stuff is the best way that you can make a difference. If this made a difference for you, if this conversation meant something to you, if you understand things a little bit more, please share. Free or paid, doesn't matter. We're just so grateful you're part of the resistance. And we'll try not to let you down along the way. It's not our intention, but sometimes my audio doesn't work. Sometimes I don't get it right, but we endeavor to do it right all the time. So thanks for doing this, brother. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Rate, subscribe. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys.